When I started posting videos in 2020, I did it for one reason and one reason only. I did it because I'd always had this deep, burning desire within my soul to help people overcome their challenges, realize their potential, and ultimately live a better life. I did it because that was my own pursuit. It sounds cheesy as hell, I know, but since I've been alive, I've always tried to stay true to that mission in some form or another, to uplift as many people as I can along the way. So when I see stats and data that show just how many people are struggling with something, and when you really look at it, most of the people around you are unhappy in some way, it's pretty eye-opening. After surveying over 21,000 adults in 2020, around 72% of the world wants to change their life. In another study, only 1 in 7 Americans believe that they have a great job and they wouldn't change it. And 78% of a 12,000 person group said that they're willing to pay a premium for true happiness. That way of life sucks. But at the same time, that was also me. In this video, I'm going to lay out exactly how I went from the lowest point in my life, rock bottom, to finding a sense of purpose, but most importantly, self-worth again. This is a 4-step process that you can implement today, but you're gonna need a couple things. You're gonna need some paper and you're gonna need something to write with. So pause the video and go grab that so you can take notes. It won't work if you don't have notes. I'm serious. Pause the video, grab a notepad and have something to write with, because if you write this stuff down, I'm telling you, it's going to hit that much harder. All right, I'm trusting you got something. So the first step to changing your life in 1 year is to reframe your self-image. Have you ever been around somebody that complains all the time? It's usually some negative opinion of a person or a situation, or sometimes it's even themselves. Now, take that same person and ask yourself, do you truly think that they're happy with not only where they are in life, but more importantly, who they are? In the world of neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, it's all about the connection of the way you speak and your behavioral patterns, and how these combined can influence where you are in your life. The great thing about NLP is that the way you speak to yourself and your behavioral patterns, you can change these, which can ultimately change where you are in life. So the core focus of NLP is your self-image, and it's both what you say to yourself and to others. And when those areas of focus, your self-image and the way you speak, have this negative connotation to them, it becomes a breeding ground for bad decisions and bad outcomes to open up in your life. Now, I'll give you a personal example to tie this all together and have it make sense. The start of when I hit rock bottom in my life, it all started in a relationship that I was in, and my partner stated, if you need to complain, just do it. It's normal. To me, it wasn't normal though. I had spent my whole life trying to build a positive mentality and always see the good in situations and not let my standards drop down to the point of complaining about anything and everything. To put it bluntly, I hated complaining, and it sounded like a cop-out to me for facing your problems head on. Then I experienced one rough day and I had a moment of weakness, and she mentioned, if you need to complain, just do it. So I did. And immediately it felt abnormal. It felt cringy to say the least, and it just didn't feel right. But then after a little bit, it started to feel normal. Started to feel like it was easy. And just as I'd spent almost 25 years perfecting the art of being positive and having a positive mentality, especially to those around me, it took about 25 seconds for the negativity to roll off my tongue and that to become part of who I am. It was that decision of allowing my standards to drop that resulted in more negative instances occurring in my life, because I was now open to them. I was now aware of the negativity. That is what ultimately led me down this rough road that I was about to embark on. It led me down a path that I was going to have to pull my way out of. Now, I tell you this story because what you say to yourself, it ultimately reveals itself in your life. Your self-image will become affected by these negative words that you speak. You'll eventually open yourself up to seeing negativity around you. And you can see that this is a perpetual cycle. You say something negative, you see negative instances in your life, starts to affect your self-worth. There's a quote from George Bernard Shaw that says, "Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." This quote hits especially hard because if you look at most people that are unhappy and they want to change their life, you can also probably assume that they don't have the best self-image. They probably just don't think of themselves as highly as they should. Now, the fortunate thing is that you can change your self-image and there is hope, but we'll get to that next. Now, let me dive deeper into some ways that can actually help you reframe this self-image in step 2, which is learning the art of visualization. Visualization is such a fruitful concept in life, but it takes a lot of discipline. I don't say that to scare you, but I say that because it does take some work. As a society, we are horrible at holding our attention to one thing for longer than probably 3 seconds. I mean, I've personally noticed that as I've gotten older and regularly use social media and see advertisements, I fall into this trap of being programmed to look for something that catches my eye. It's just how the world works now, but that's no excuse, and we have to break the pattern. If you imagine it, like, the playing field is so much easier to compete on because everybody is distracted now. They've got their eyes on other things and nobody is focusing on themselves. So this is your opportunity to make huge strides in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Visualization is a tool that if you take the time to learn it now, it's going to pay you dividends for the rest of your life. You can use it in times of success and getting to that next level, but you can also use it in times of desperation. And when that's the only thing that you have in control, you can always go back to your visualization and pull your way out of whatever you're going through. Now, when I was going through this deep, dark period of depression, I'd lost a lot of the good habits that I'd spent so long developing. Fortunately, I had the memories of what these habits were and what I did in some of these instances that helped me get to the next level of my life. I still had these tools. I just had to retrain myself to use them correctly. Now, it was visualization that was the one tool that I had that gave me the smallest ounce of control in my life. It just gave me that sense of I can get out of this. So at this time, I decided to completely leave my old life behind, move across the country, and start over. I was so incredibly sick of being depressed and turning to alcohol every single weekend just to numb this pain that I was going through. I had to get in an environment that I could thrive in. Now, at this time, I lost everything, and I was moving to a place where the job market was very competitive because a lot of other people were moving there. So I found myself working at Whole Foods, stocking groceries at 3 a.m. just to get by. Now, despite not having any bills really other than rent and my phone bill and my insurance, it was still very hard to get by. Even though I was working upwards of 60 hours a week with overtime, I still couldn't move the needle because the cost of living was so high. As I would work a full month, I would see that my bank account would continue to drop ever so slightly, and I just could not keep up. Despite that, I used every moment of free time that I had to visualize. When I was working at 3 a.m., I would walk around the store and just imagine someday I'm going to have enough money to buy my groceries here. This was truly one of the toughest times of my life because I knew I was capable of so much more. I just had to survive this season of my life. Keep in mind, this is one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in all of Colorado, so I would spend my breaks and before or after work walking these neighborhoods and just envisioning myself thriving. I visualized myself walking the dog in the morning, going for a run, and just completely owning the fact that I belonged there. These people were no different than me, and all I had to do was recognize the right break and to attack it when it came up in my life. When I go back home to the apartment, I would look for jobs or opportunities that would just get me to the next level in life, that would just be one stepping stone so I could get out of this hole. I came across this opportunity on Indeed, and in the job description, it was in my field, it was a base salary with commission, but most importantly, it gave me free rent in one of the nicest, most luxurious apartment complexes in the state of Colorado. And it was about a half mile from that grocery store that I worked at. At this moment, I doubled down. I went to that neighborhood, even on my off days, which keep in mind, this was about 25 minutes away from where I actually lived. And I would go back to those sidewalks and back to those streets, and I would visualize living in this neighborhood. I put everything I had into this. I even went to the complex that posted the job, and I gave them the case of why I was the best fit for this job. And after about 2 months of doing this and just over $80 in my bank account, I got that opportunity. And that was the turning point of my entire life that put me on this trajectory of changing my life. Now, before we go on to this next point, I want to give you a short tutorial on visualization so you can implement this today. But keep in mind, like I mentioned in my story, this takes time. It's definitely not a quick fix. And I'll explain the purpose of it as we go on. But if you don't have visualization in your arsenal, you're missing a huge opportunity to change your life. Now, just remember, in order to get the most out of visualization, you have to change your self-image. You have to have a positive self-image. So this is going to take a little while. You have these limiting beliefs. If you have a bad self-image that you subconsciously believe, you just believe them without thinking of it. And that's going to take a little bit of time to remove from your mind and replace it with something positive. So just be patient and stick with this process. So when I start to visualize, I always start with meditation. I find a spot that is relaxing where I can lay down. Some people do this sitting up, but I like to find a place to lay down and completely relax. I start to focus on my breathing. Slow inhale with a slow exhale. And after a few breaths of getting myself under control, I start to relax every single muscle in my body from my head all the way down to my toes. And depending on how stressed you are, it may take you a minute. But once you reach that point of total relaxation and all you're thinking about is your breathing, just remove the thought of your breathing and just be present with no thoughts whatsoever. Now, this is going to be very hard because, like I said earlier, we're accustomed to having our attention on something at all times. So this is challenging, but if you stick with it long enough, you'll start to develop a little more patience and you'll start to find yourself being more present more often. Now, once you've reached this point in meditation, now we're going to start visualizing. So the thing about visualization is that your mind, it has a hard time differing between what has actually happened in your life and a very vivid dream or vision. So what I mean by this is, in order to get your mind to experience the feeling of actually experiencing something, despite whether it's happened or not, you have to implement your 5 senses. So to make it more real, you have to implement your 5 senses. Here, I want you to think about a vision of exactly what you want your life to look like, or who you want to become, whatever it is you want to accomplish. Now, this can be you thriving in the process of becoming, or it can be just after you have reached this achievement that you've been in pursuit of. But the main thing that we're looking for here is to get this feeling, to get the feeling of what it's like to accomplish this. When you start to sit on this vision in your mind, you're going to start to experience this sense of confidence and this satisfaction of achieving whatever it is that you want to do. And when you reach that point, I want you to sit in it for a little bit. I want you to remember exactly how that feels, because that is how you take momentum and carry it into other aspects of your life. You're going to come out of this visualization feeling very motivated, very inspired, and it's going to open your mind up to so many more opportunities because now you're going to be vibrating on this new frequency. It's almost as if you're just going to see opportunities come up that you wouldn't normally see. I know this sounds weird and out there, but I've used this so many times in my life to achieve a particular goal that once you do it the first time, you'll never go back. You will always use this for the rest of your life. So now you know, in order to change your life in 1 year, you have to reframe the self-image. You have to learn the art of visualization. And now step 3, find your biggest pain point and seek growth. In an interview with Lewis Howes, Tony Robbins mentioned that your growth is the only limit to your happiness. If you're not happy, it's likely because you're not growing in some area. Now, I remember the times in my own life where I was very unhappy, and this held true. I was unhappy because I didn't have purpose or any direction. Now, as that statement of seeking growth is kind of broad, I want to narrow it down a little bit right here. When you know you want to change your life in 1 year, you can't mess around. You have to absolutely commit. That means asking yourself some tough questions. You have to answer, why are you in the situation that you're in? What is the one thing that you need to focus on? Your relationship, your career, your health and fitness, your financial state? What is the one thing that is causing you the most pain and is your biggest desire to change? If you're not sure, start with your body. With a physiology first approach, Tony also mentions that if you change the body, you change your emotions. If you change your emotions, you change your decisions, and then you change the quality of your life. The quality of your life is your emotion. The momentum you build from getting in better physical shape is arguably the most contagious momentum you can create for yourself. With a stronger, more fit physique, your confidence increases, your self-image improves, and you actually see changes occurring. It's hard not to be motivated. This point is so crucial because everyone you know that wants to change their life, they all have one major pain point. Whether it's financial, career, relationships, physical health, the one thing that you're lacking most in your life, you change that one thing, and that will allow you to cover the most ground in your life to change it in 1 year. Now, in order to change your life in 1 year, you know step 1, reframe your self-image. Number 2, learn the art of visualization. And number 3, find your biggest pain point and seek growth. And the 4th way to change your life in 1 year is to pursue challenges. And Jordan Peterson says, to heighten meaning in your life, pursue challenges. I've come to really love this quote because when I think back to the times in my life that I didn't have a direction or purpose, it was almost always because I'd let myself become way too comfortable. When I'd went through the toughest years of my life and I had felt like I had no meaning in life, it was most certainly because I didn't pursue challenges. In fact, I'd done the opposite. Instead of facing my problems head on, I had found myself heavily drinking on the weekends just to escape the pain that I was in. And instead of recognizing my poor self-image, I found myself sitting in negativity and placing the blame on everything other than myself. My challenge was my ego. I had to kill my ego, my old self, to move on. I stripped it all away and I used reinvention as my new pursuit. I wanted to be this brand new, improved version of myself. Someone that could actually speak on going through real problems in life and challenges because I'd actually gone through them and overcame them. Then I would give that advice to someone that came after me. I wanted to be more than just someone who speaks on theories and what you should do. I wanted to give you proof that this actually works. Now, throughout this challenging pursuit of reinvention, when I'd hit a fork in the road and I didn't know where to go or what to do, I looked to those that had pushed themselves to the point of success and made it to where they wanted to go. So my advice to you, when you feel lost, when you have no purpose to pursue or you're just overwhelmed with the challenges in front of you, model someone who's successful. You don't have to have it all figured out right at this moment, but just look at someone who's achieved some level of success. Maybe find someone or some people that have what you want and observe it. What are they doing different than you? What do they believe differently than you? Challenge yourself to adopt some of these habits, despite how uncomfortable they may be, because success always leaves clues. Now, I've taken you through the 4 steps to change your life in 1 year, at least how I've done it. And now you're probably looking at this thinking, this is kind of challenging, and that's okay. It's okay to be intimidated or a little bit overwhelmed. I've been there. I just want you to take a moment and just think for a second. Just think about where you want to go, what you want to do, who you want to become. Your potential, it starts with your self-image. And every single thing that you wanted in this life, it's all on the other side of this process. Sure, there are other ways to do this, but I've never been big on just spitting theory or things that I've tried that haven't worked for me. I want to give you this process because I know the power it has. And I know how it's changed my life. I have the hopes that it will do the same for you. So if you're going through something, you're struggling, you're having trouble overcoming a challenge, or finding direction, just leave a comment below and I'm happy to answer any questions you have or hopefully help you work through it. And if you're a little bit too nervous to post publicly, that's fine too. Shoot me a DM and I'm happy to respond and maybe we can work through your problem that way. It's all about finding some purpose for your life and living a life with meaning. Until then, I will catch you guys on the next one.